Hello everybody, Pebblebooch here. Today we're going to review the World of Halo Master Chief Flood Tank and Infection forms. As you can tell from the style of the figures, these figures are based off the Halo 3 designs, apart from the other World of Halo figures that mostly represent the Halo Infinite design. Here is the Master Chief, and wow, take a look at this. The Master Chief has a plastic rubber-like feeling, but also feels very durable. The Master Chief really does look exactly like his Halo 3 model, with details that Jazzwares included to make it very accurate. As you can see, the figure comes with a flamethrower that was completely usable in both the Floodgate and Cortana mission in Halo 3. The weapon, after equipping it, would take you into a third-person view angle, as opposed to the other weapons, which would lock you in first person. Now let's take a look at the details of texture of the entire figure here. As you can see, the Master Chief is in a sage-like green-coated color like he was in Halo 3. And the flamethrower is astonishingly detailed too, both in the texture and in the mold. Probably one of the most detailed weapons Jazzwares has ever made as compared to previous weapons. The flamethrower, colored mostly in green and gray, has a rubber feeling, but because of the many layers that make up the flamethrower, the weapon feels strong. As for coloring, there's this radiation symbol in the back, and there's this piranha face art that was in the game as well. Here's the size of the flamethrower compared to the Chief. Almost half his size. Back to the Chief. Aside from the green coating, we see a few minor white scratches from his lower body portion up to his chest. I believe they are a part of the coloring for this figure. Or in worst case, my figure might be damaged. But I really doubt that. I have seen other reviewers who have Chief in a similar fashion. In Halo 3, the Master Chief had a major damage mark on the right side of his chest. And it is seen here. The figure includes that detail. His detail from the under armor suit also has his blackish gray-like texture. I would say that though, the green on his hands are a little bit lighter compared to the green on the rest of the Chief. Now let's take a look at the Flood Tank and Infection forms. The accurate design of these molds are amazing. It looks exactly how it is in game, though if I remember, one of the legs for the Flood Tank was actually quite smaller to the other in game. But this is still accurate and complementary when having him stand upright. Here are the Infection forms. They look as detailed just like the Flood Tank, with the red spores coming out of them, and even a spiky-like plastic over the banana-shaped heads. It's nice to have 3 of these. The yellowish-green texture of the Flood is so well put that it might be mistaken for even a McFarlane brand, and all Halo collectors typically refer to the Halo McFarlane toy line as one of the most detailed Halo figures, compared to that of Joyride or Mattel. Also, here are some stands that can hold the figures. Now let's come back to the Master Chief, who comes with a lot of articulation. First, with the arm and shoulder articulations. The shoulder can rotate 360 degrees. The arm can be bent almost up to 90 degrees forward, and can rotate as well. The hands can be rotated upwards or downwards, and can rotate to 360 degrees. His head can rotate left and right at a limit of 180 degrees. The chest armor cuts off further head rotation though. The head can be posed to look upwards and slightly downwards from the origin. The chest has some sort of ball joint, but you can't really turn it left or right. You can pose the Chief to have his chest upright or down. Now with the legs. The legs can be rotated up and... Whoops, it seems I have taken off his leg. But fortunately, the World of Halo figures are more forgiving in when you pose them too roughly. In most cases, you could simply plug any limb back in, as opposed to some other toy lines. McFarlane. Back to what I was saying, the legs can be moved up and down to almost 270 degrees, and can rotate opposite right or left to possibly near 90. For the knees, there are 2 knee bending features, which can have the figure bend at a maximum capacity. This is a well-established feature I admire since all previous Halo toy lines don't have this capability. With the feet, you can turn them up or down and rotate them left and right. They don't have any toe articulation in which McFarlane had, but it's not a detail I'm too worried about anyway. So there we have the articulation for Chief. Posability is great overall. Now, the Flood Tank. Very cool to see how the developers engineered this character to be a very well articulated figure. Man, I'm digging this, especially since this is the first Flood Tank action figure released in any Halo toy line. The details are just very nice. Anyway, let's study its articulation. Fortunately, it's not as limited as how it seems. You can actually do intended poses with this figure. Starting from the flood tank's right thick arm, like Impaler, it can rotate all the way around and can go back and forth. The same goes with the shoulder regarding the rotation and movement. The head also has articulation, but can only look upwards or to the default straight view. As for the other arm, there are similar rotations that can be applied, but since it's smaller than the right arm, there is more flexibility there. The torso and the lower chest does have a ball joint connected together, but it's not very tight. It'll most likely just slip and fall down. For the legs, since they are asymmetrical, one is more likely to have more flexibility than the other, but both legs still do articulate very well. Just like Master Chief, the Flood Tank has the same kneecap feature. You can try to bend the knees as much as you can. You can also rotate the feet around and even push them up and down to have the feet facing in a different way. The left leg also applies to the right leg, except the right leg is a little bit more bigger. You can rotate the right leg all the way around. Now if they ever pop off, you can always plug it back in. I forgot to mention that the legs are connected on ball joint. Just like the Master Chief, the Flood Tank has stand slots under its feet. You can plug him into the stander. But since it's so big and wide, it is possible to only plug in one of them. Not unless you have many other stands connected to each other. Very promising Flood Tank figure. There's more articulation than we would expect. Very well made. I like it. Now that we're done with articulation, let's come back to the stands. Each stand has two pegs, in which you can connect each World of Halo figure that has holes under their feet. You may also connect each stand together and create your own tile. You can have your characters be posed any way you want them to be. For size comparisons, we're starting with my cat here, who finds the infection forms very tasty. In terms of scale, of course, these are 4-inch figures, and they're going to be way smaller than a cat, or tabby cat. We have the Chief and the Flood Tank at similar heights, but the bulkiness of the Flood Tank makes it slight bit taller. The infection forms are pretty small, as they were in the game. The Chief and the Tank stand around from 4.5 to 5 inches. As for the Flood infection forms, they stand around 1. Now let's take things to the next level. Let's compare them with McFarlane figures. And as you can see, McFarlane figures tend to be way larger than the Jazzwares figures. Before we continue on with size comparisons, I want to compare the World of Halo Master Chief with the McFarlane version. The McFarlane version is more detailed and has many posability of its own. The green on the World of Halo Master Chief is kinda light green, whereas the McFarlane has a sage-like dark green style. But I like both figures. Although I still admit that the McFarlane has a lot of detail, that doesn't mean that I see an incompleteness from the World of Halo Chief. Even McFarlane Master Chief agrees with me. He thinks his little brother is just as cool as he is. Now let's size compare the Flood Tank. As you can see, the McFarlane Master Chief is a lot more taller, but he does still scale well with the infection forms. And he looks well with them too. The Brute on the right hand is very big. Brute figures in the McFarlane toy line they are just very big. You know, they're even bigger than Elites. Even though in the Halo game, like such as Halo 3, they're almost the same sized if the Elites weren't slouching. Here I also have a Blue Elite Combat, and yes, it's a lot taller than the Flood Tank, but the Brute is just taller overall. Now finally, before I conclude the video, I did want to show you that the Jazzwares Master Chief can hold some of the McFarlane weapons, though some of them are also just too rough and hard that the Chief himself can't really grip them, such as the Assault Rifle and the Spiker Rifle, as shown here. But he does hold the SMG pretty well. Well, that's it for the Flood Tank and Master Chief pack. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I prepared a short film for you to watch. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't.
Alright, got my flamethrower. Time to stop Truth from firing the rings, but I gotta find where he is first. Oh, what the?
Stop! Do not shoot, but listen. Let me lead you safely to our foe. Only you can halt what he has set in motion. Oh. Oh. What are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing? I'm gonna kick your butt.
Why?
Why? Let me think. You try to kill me and my men on the first Halo ring, even when I'm trying to stop the damn things from firing. You even try to kill me on High Charity, especially in High Charity. You brought me and the Arbiter before you, yapping with that stinky breath and your goofy nasty tentacles, and we're like, oh, this ring will make us brothers! Then send your nasty flood troops to attack me in High Charity? After that?
Wait. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think about that.